Look who I ran into. Former General Manager Ed Wade of the Houston Astros. Ed, great to see you.
Same here, Matt. Good to see you.
All right. I want to talk Jose Altuve. And tell me the story. When you saw him down in the minors, what did you see?
Well, he was coming through the system, and I heard a lot about him, so I went to see him in Corpus Christi, and I saw a guy with a lot of tools. People wanted to talk about his size even back then, that he's undersized, so on and so forth. Then he goes out to the Futures game and plays great out there as well. And time and circumstance where we were trying to rebuild a core nucleus and trying to put our best foot forward under the circumstances, it made sense to skip AAA, get him to the big leagues, and he went back to AAA after I left there for a while. But it was clear that he belonged in the big leagues, and I can remember scouts saying, he's only 5'3" and all this kind of stuff. I said, well, if he hits 250, he's 5'6". As it turns out, he's 6'2". Between Most Valuable Player awards, All-Star games, and obviously the big ring on his finger from World Series play.
Wade is now retired, but went full circle with his baseball career. After interning with the Phillies, he became media relations director with the Astros in the late 70s. He famously convinced the late J.R. Richard to pose holding 8 baseballs in one hand. He later served as general manager of both the Phillies and the Astros, drafting players like Cole Hamels with the Phillies, Dallas Keuchel, and George Springer with the Astros. But Jose Altuve still stands tall among all the greats he's worked with as a GM. When you met him and then you got to know him, what impressed you the most about Jose?
Well, I'm a big believer in character and makeup. It doesn't rule the day. Obviously, talent rules the day when you get to the big leagues. But when you have somebody that with his type of makeup, because I'm sure it wasn't the first time that he heard the undersized kind of things. He never let any of that bother him. There were certainly leadership qualities there that you could see even as a kid. All the challenges of skipping AAA, getting to the big leagues. But you saw that the type of guy that was made right and wasn't going to be overwhelmed by the circumstance, and obviously he's proven that now in the biggest stages you can possibly have as a Major League Baseball player, and has acquitted himself very well and represented not only the Astros but the city of Houston very well.
Yeah, I love the fact he's inspired kids of all sizes. Yeah. That's the amazing.
Well, I'll tell you a side non-baseball story. I had a friend named Brian Bourgeois, a Navy SEAL, who was killed in a training accident about in February. And Brian and his family were huge Astros fans, and the family reached out to me and said that his son Barrett was turning 18 3 days after Brian passed away, and asked if there was some way to get a couple of videos for Barrett, wishing him a happy birthday. And I still had Jose's cell phone number from 2011 in my phone, and I called him and explained what we were trying to do. And he sent a beautiful 30-second tribute to Barrett and to Brian Bourgeois. And same was true from the standpoint of Breckman sent one also, and Craig Biggio sent one as well. But for him to take the time out in February and take the call and then be so prompt in doing something that from the heart was really terrific.
Now let me ask you about this series. You don't have mixed loyalties here because you live up here in the Philadelphia area, or do you? These are two teams that you spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears with through the years.
Well, in all candor, the 3 years as a PR director back in the '80s, and then worked for Tal Smith for a couple of years down there, and then the 4 years as GM. I developed some roots there, but I started here as an intern in the PR department in 1977, and ended up with 24 years on 3 different stays here. And my wife was an usherette in 1977 when we met. Gary Maddox was the best man at my wedding, and the ownership level, John Middleton and people that have been here even before '77 when I started, who are still in the organization. I've got a lot of very close friends here. So yeah, I'm pulling for Philadelphia at this point in time. I've got to live here. So what the Astros have accomplished is incredible. We unfortunately, when Drayton sold the club, we were trying to get our feet headed in the right direction, and change of direction took place, and the results speak for themselves. But from the standpoint of loyalty, there are so many people here that I owe a lot to, that really draws me towards the Philadelphia end of things at this point in time.
Can you step back and be objective and give us your thoughts on, we're 2 games deep into this, give us your thoughts on how you think this is going to unfold?
Well, when you look at just from the surface, you've got a team, the last wild card in, that's still standing, and you've got a team that from a standpoint of pitching, defense, offense, has just rolled over most of the American League to get here. It'd be disingenuous to think that it was an even Steven kind of thing. But the beauty of baseball is it doesn't matter. From first pitch to last pitch will determine who the better club is at that point in time on that particular day. And you go into this series now where the Phillies are going to have very emotional crowds here to back them up, and we saw in the NLCS what that could mean to them, the drama that Harper created, and what Schwarber and some of these other guys have done here. So, again, if you put all the analytics and all that stuff on paper, it says overwhelmingly this is a Houston walkover. But the reality is that human beings play this game, and the beauty of our game is still that those fundamentals will still come into play, and it could be one pitcher stepping up in a critical situation, or some guy that comes off the bench and creates drama for you that's going to probably determine the outcome of this thing.